Welcome to StarBloom 2022. Special thanks to junkDNA for giving me a chance to share this vital message. Nearly 30 years ago, galactic commanders from the Pleiades transmitted messages that became the Phoenix Journals. And this excerpt from the Phoenix Journal, Creation, the Sacred Universe, has a vital message for us today. Our communications during the closing years, a decade later in the 70s, were beginning to reach past the social fringe of your culture that was contacted during the 60s. At that time, we were reaching deep into the heart of global civilization. There must always come a point where the lies can no longer be accepted and the masses can see beyond the veils and charades and into truth. There must always reach a point wherein the truth is visible as the sore thumb sticking out in the crowd, unmistakable in its obvious presence. There must come a point where change is not only feasible, but demanded by the masses in conscious unity. You are just about to that point, and now the word can go forth, and it will fill the vacant voids left unfulfilled by organized, indoctrinated religious clubs, politics, government, military, and most of all, the separation of man from God by all manner of heinous lies and false teachings. You are now ready to hear truth and know that which you hear bears the truth of God in creation. You shall then be able to hear and in time organize your actions into inner understanding, which will then be brought without. You can begin to function in unity of purpose to reclaim that freedom and truth taken from you through ignorance on your part and evil intent on the part of the perpetrators of the lies. It is the time of coming again into truth. In the 70s, we were not yet in direct contact to any great extent with your government officials, nor with world bankers and or international financiers. In most cases, these elements had surrounded themselves with ego mechanisms too complex to penetrate at that time, or at this time for the matter of it. Our first major contact with them would begin to occur during the more powerful transmissions of the late 80s and confrontations with their contemptible intent through disclosures of truth beyond the layers and layers of lies set forth to pull you, the people, down. We've had much contact with those ones, especially in the years of the very end of the 80s. They did not allow you ones to know the contact nor the presence and have continued to cover up the relationships established and have continued to act in defiance of God's laws and further unbalance the creation's organized harmony upon your planet. The ones in placement among the controllers are nonetheless critical enough in the maintenance of your social systems to ensure that the world will make some incredible leaps in consciousness. The majority do not have room within their belief structures to accommodate so grand a being as an angel or an extraterrestrial, so they respond to our influence as if it were coming from themselves. They feel good, they feel clear, they feel the changes in the air, they wake up a little, throw off some of their defense mechanisms, and bring a newer and fresher perspective into each situation where the point is critical. This is, however, why the thrust into violence and conditioning the masses into violent and deviant behavior has been sped up to an incredible extent. There are many major factions on headlong collision course, and the explosion shall be great indeed. Consciously or unconsciously, the ones we contact and touch who can accept possibilities of perception changes begin to more thoroughly accommodate the flow of spirit. At times, they change radically and attribute their transformation to this or that mechanism. We simply enjoy the experience. We do not care how the change comes, as long as it does come. Those who are not yet sensitive enough to sense our presence feel us as a high, as clarity, or as peace. All we touch are changed in some way. Even in the unknowing, the touch is something to leave one changed forever. If it seems for these people that the changes originate within themselves, this is all the better, for in fact they do. We do not bring the presence of God. That already exists everywhere. We assist in the removal of conceptual and emotional blocks that prevent the full experience of that presence. We work with all who are sympathetic, simple, and sincere people who feel our spirit moving, but for the most part only within the context of their current belief systems, to allow growth and to change without shock to the system's learned patterns. Through communications such as these, we are forging more concise conceptual tools that these individuals and others can use to free themselves. Often these tools are still too conceptual for the message they contain, but they're useful at this time in loosening the bars of the conceptual prisons in which so many individuals still function. If you found yourself in hell, it might be appropriate to grab a pitchfork and fight your way out. In a sense, this is the nature of our conceptual work. Once out of hell, you would no doubt set the pitchfork aside, for the tool would only be a further burden to be carried about. These concepts that we are providing at this time are strictly transitional, to be used only until such times as you no longer need them. Their ultimate purpose is the dissolution of subjective thinking. We would give them freely to assist your race in releasing itself from the spell of fear and reason. Reason is a beautiful and useful process when it springs from the right premise. But the right premise is seldom the starting point for fearful creatures caught in a net of subjectivity. Only when reason is returned to its proper place in the spiritual structure of true intelligence and used wisely in the consciousness of the Christ will it once more begin to serve the needs of the whole. There is only one spirit, but there is no limit to the number of forms through which this spirit can express. For the moment, these forms seem important, and they are, insofar as their contribution to the whole is concerned, but as the years go by, the range of their differentiation will become of much less consequence to individuals who are sincerely offering their lives as channels through which spirit can work. As life is able to express through such individuals with increasing ease, they will begin to reorganize each other as differentiations of the same spirit. Such individuals could be compared to conscious nerve endings of God and matter, channeling the life flow of Christ awareness into each and every cell of the planetary being. Surprisingly enough to you who cannot understand, by the time of the 80s, revelations, knowledge of our existence and our work was widespread, especially among the younger generation. The prime focus of our efforts at that time. Surprisingly enough to you who cannot understand, by the time of the 80s, revelations, knowledge of our existence and our work was widespread, especially among the younger generation, the prime focus of our efforts at that time. Although awareness of our presence is not necessary to do our work, it does facilitate the transfer of information. Many thousands were consciously working with us, and many more were not in conscious realization of that which prompted them into various actions. Many of the youth could not adjust to the contradictions of lies and truth, poor example and empty words, and thus and so, and many committed suicide in order to fulfill their mission to awaken those left in physical form. Never judge another's actions, for you have no way to know the contract with God of another. Most of you do not even know your own contract with God himself. I suggest you get those circuits clear, dear friends. Great portents of change are in the air. Your physicists are speaking of things in terms that defy explanation. Your psychologists are abandoning the sinking ships of conventional rationality. Your religions are exploding beyond the confines of their dogma in the rediscovery of spirit. It is all here in the present moment, but unrecognized, as you once cling to the old, and final efforts are being thrust against you to pull you down. You are in that projected future shock. Open your mind to possibility. Open your eyes to see what is around you. There is a new pattern descending upon your planet. Tune into it and learn an effective way of dealing with the closing years of this phase of historical experience. You are being offered an opportunity to enter a new reality, a new creation set forth by your own training and by your own hand, cleared of the errors of past experience and overflowing with the abundance of perfect creation. You created this world and what you perceive in it. To overcome the negative impact, you must come back into the recognition of that which you are. Just as you created that which you are now experiencing, you shall have to create the mode to overcome and grow above and beyond. You are headed for a day very soon now wherein there will only be reality to witness. Those who tune in to the new frequencies and patterns will find life growing more wondrous every day. Those who tune into fear will find things falling apart. Two worlds of consciousness will begin to form ever more distinctly: the world of love and life and the world of fear and death. There will continue to be some overlap of these worlds for several of what you call years to come, some going back and forth. For certain individuals, the polarization will continue to intensify. The moment of birth will also be the moment of last judgment, the moment of final separation. What about final separation? There will be better times for some and worse for others depending on their orientation and involvement. Fortunately, the natural tendency of your species is to gravitate towards love and life, and therein lies truth, innately awaiting surfacing. For the vast majority, the times ahead will be better than they expect, for beyond the conscious facade, most ones at this time do not look forward with joy to anything. Some of the worst scenarios have already been rendered impossible, except in a few isolated pockets where the new energies will not enter until later. The momentum of positive change is actually being felt everywhere. Remember, that which you are shown and told is not truth, and therefore you must feel isolated and among the minority. There are more of your brothers around than the conspirators would allow you to know. Their downfall is assured as you once awaken into truth and take your power. The coming age will be a time of incredible blessing. As the transition moves along, there will be restoration of ecological balance, etc. But you can expect these swings to deteriorate in the immediate experience, for change only comes after the swing into negativity reaches its peak. Human individuals will not function in such cumbersome fashion as they do today. They will go about their tasks with the grace of dancers, performing to a music that each will hear on his or her own frequency of soul. Through these melodies and harmony, God will sustain each of his contextual identities in supreme fulfillment. Specific melodies will change with each environment, with each moment, with each task, yet a consistent overall pattern of relationship will constitute the new identity of mankind. Ah, yes, you shall create your own transition, and it shall be glorious, if you choose of it to be. Yours is not a tame God to be confined in reverent concepts, but a vibrant, playful energy, the very soul and spirit of life. Anticipate that which is coming in wondrous joy. Lighten up with the merriment and anticipation of Christ, the limitless sacred circle of infinity. Watch the birthing of the phoenix as it comes from the incubator. Even now, the awakening perfection is showing himself to your scientists and mathematicians through playful impossibilities that thwart all their rational explanations. He is laughingly holding up the stage props of contemporary contentions, running to and fro, catching them as they fall, seeing how long he can keep his presence a surprise, watching while they call him everything except that which he is. Do you remember when you were but small children and the world seemed fun and exciting? Be like those little children again in your anticipation and curiosity for truth. Come play with us in the wonderland of matter. It is long years that you have dreamed of your entry into these realms. Your dream has come true and you fail to see it. Wake up and see where you are. If the world sees the happy exuberance of the awakening creator shining in your eyes and thinks that it is irresponsible in light of this or that growing crisis, patiently explain to them what is happening. Remind them of how it has to be to reach beyond. Tell them something of the new perspective. Show them the possibilities in taking control and power for self. Do not present yourself as a silly clown, but come into the joy within your own presence in the moment of your being. Tell them what you are experiencing and what they might experience too, and what together you might change and accomplish to reverse the negativity upon your wondrous placement. Allow others to see that peace and serenity are not yours alone, but the reflection in your life of a being who will always be at his greatest ease. Do not put on a facade of pious, foolish appearance. Be self and be at peace. Do not allow this preview of that which has come to distract you from the work that lies ahead. Do not store the specifics of this vision in your mind and then expound upon them with rational extrapolations. Feel the spirit of all that we have been sharing, embody it practically in your daily living. The vision is real, beloved friends, but there are necessary steps to occur before what is already done in spirit becomes likewise accomplished on the physical earth. You are the means of those steps, the mechanism that the Lord has designed to implement His will in the realm of form. In the stillness of your innermost being, contact Him, gain His clarity, purpose, and direction. When you've received instructions and discovered your area of service, go forth and do what needs to be done. We're prepared to join in conscious communion those members of your species who have experienced psychological death and rebirth. Before our help can materialize, however, there must be more openings on human levels. We are unable to commune with humans whose vibrational fields are distorted by ego factors, emotional reactions, excessive conceptualizations, or past future orientation. In such cases, our presence would force their vibrational patterns into alignment with ours, robbing them prematurely of a portion of their own identity. We are only able to work with those who are consciously aware of who they are and what they are doing. With these, union becomes simply reunion. Be patient with your brothers, for they have long been falsely taught. It is only critical that you remember your origin and purpose, and the rest shall follow in proper sequence of events. Your descent into matter has almost reached its low point. If all with which you identify is not to be annihilated in entropic collapse, you must begin waking up and begin living. You have been dead to the most important part of yourself all these years of your history, but your time in the sarcophagus is complete. You shall no more be consumed in the fires of faithlessness. Arise then from the ashes of ignorance, put aside the incubation, and rejoin the cosmic brotherhood. The time of separation has come. There are but two roads before you. You can walk in the innocence of those who trust in the source, or perish in the impending collapse of your rational systems. You must walk before you can fly, and the choice, as it always has been, is yours alone. Everything that you need exists in this present moment, and this moment is all that exists. In its brief flicker, you will find all the time in the world. Through it, you will contact the living information that will guide you with infallible direction. It is through this present moment that you will leave the prison of human definition and expand into an awareness of divine perception. It is the crack between the worlds, not only the worlds of past and future, but the worlds of time and space, spirit and matter, form and being. It is a timeless zone, the gateway through which you will again begin to participate in the adventure of creation. And as we begin, so do we end, for there is neither beginning nor ending in reality, only that which is. Do not subscribe to the passing illusions of this age. Do not blindly follow the archaic warrior programming that leaves you unconscious, an automaton, a puppet controlled by those who have for centuries made it their business to map and chart the currents of fear that now entraps you. Realize your choices and your ability of creation. Should you feel a habit of violent reaction, whether in thought, word, or deed, realize that it is only yourself with whom you strive. Do not contend so anxiously with yourself. There's only one of you here shadowboxing on the wall. Defend yourself from this alone, the programming of unconscious fears. The essence of intelligence is this. It is always to your advantage to cooperate rather than retaliate. These are not others that you perceive as foes, but those of self reflected back from the mirror. It is better to allow them to become your friends and partners in the healing and educational work of these times. But you must learn to stand strong in the presence of those who would refuse decision and play upon your weakest fiber. Do not be so foolish as to allow that which would destroy you and/or our work within. Remember, example, ones of your species will be watching that which you do. Not so much that which you say. So be it. If a man is not with us, he must be accepted as being against us, and we must keep from the distraction, for after all, that is all it is about. His need for ego gratification as you place God in lower rank, thus negating your own truth and value. Ponder it gently but carefully, dear ones.